today, tomorrow, and going into your Sunday. By Sunday, we'll have more sunshine in place, but even with the sunny skies and temperatures getting above freezing, the concern will still carry on as we could see the chance for melting and then refreezing into the overnight hours. Recapping that we have a winter storm warning that will be in effect for the entire state of Tennessee. Travel is not advised, folks, if you don't have to be on the roads, especially as we go into the evening hours tonight when things are dark. It's just that much harder to get a glimpse as to where we are seeing snow or where we are seeing ice. And so that's something we're definitely going to continue to monitor. Again, models again show this chance for maybe a little bit of a wintry mix. I'm a little concerned about that. Fingers crossed. Hopefully we can keep our temperature profile in the right format of where it is all snow. And then as we go into your Saturday morning, precip's going to be out of the area. The bigger concern by that point is going to be roads, which we will continue to monitor and we will continue to watch as we go throughout the start of your Saturday. Your 7-day forecast kind of showing you again after today, things become much quieter on Saturday. If we do have any lingering precipitation, it's going to primarily be just across the higher elevations. We'll continue to see temperatures staying into the upper 30s as we go throughout the rest of your Sunday and into your Monday, and then refreezing with another surge of cold air moving into the area for your Tuesday and Wednesday. So we have meteorologist Tavian Whitehurst, who's also here with me this morning. Tavian, we have been tracking roads, viewer pictures, the forecast. I mean, it's kind of a dynamic day, but thankfully so far everything has been happening kind of right as we expected it. What are you seeing right now?
Well, thankfully things are not too bad for a lot of us. Like you were saying, Rebecca, we've been following all this information pretty consistently, but in general, things have not changed with our overall forecast. Okay, in terms of the timeline, that is still showing to be primarily correct, and then we are also seeing that the impacts are somewhat correct as well. As we look around the area, we've been primarily looking off towards the west and to the south. Those are going to be things that we hopefully show you in just a little bit, but still looking at your 7-day forecast, everyone, not just here in East Tennessee, but as we look down to Southeast Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, even West Tennessee, all of that is showing some of that clearance. So of course, we're taking a look here at your 7-day forecast. We're looking at the snowfall impacts. I mean, it's basically like the entire state is under a weather impact alert. We've been watching the roads and still, unfortunately, no impacts here in the valley, which we were expecting some of that activity to pop up, and we have been watching some people start to send in some videos. This is from Coker Creek. Thank you to Jamie Sisson for sending this in. That is going to be some nice, beautiful little flakes falling down. So it's been a very slow start, to say the least. You're taking a look at Min County. Thank you to Jamie Aguayo Jr. for sending some of that in. Pretty high speed limit, that 70-mile-per-hour range, and you probably won't want to go that fast, given we have some of that inclement weather that's going to be rolling itself in. Now, what you're looking at here is a map that I made to help explain some of the different levels of the roads that you're seeing there. So that red line down the right, that is Broadway Avenue, and so that is what is considered a primary road. Some of the first roads get covered because they are main and often traveled thoroughways. Some of those blue lines that you're seeing, this is out of the North Knoxville area, these are secondary roads that got covered next. So that first blue line at the top you're seeing is Cedar Lane. The second blue line is Highland Avenue, Highland Drive, and that third line you're seeing is Adair Drive as well. And so that's where you're going to see some of those impacts. So send things back over to Rebecca to sort of get a look at what we've been seeing around the area.
All right. Well, hopefully you can get a chance to hear Tavian in just a little bit, or maybe they can hear our production crew in the back, folks. Again, as you're joining us this morning on our streaming platform, we do kind of want to recap what we're seeing with the forecast. As you look at the radar right now, we are watching this this cluster of snow, and this snow is basically taking over all across East Tennessee. As I mentioned before, though, what we're watching is whether or not we're actually getting this snow that's hitting the surface. So you notice there's almost this circle around Morristown, with the radar being located in Morristown, Tennessee, which is off in the far northeastern corner. I'll point it out for you let's see if we can point it out for you right here. Well, it's not going to want to point for you right here. So there is Morristown. So this is where our National Weather Service is at, and this is where we get our radar at. But you notice a radar sends out beams, and with these beams, they go up at a little bit of an angle. And so what we're showing you right now on the radar is that, yes, we do have frozen precipitation in place, but we also have this little dry slot of air near the surface. And so in some areas, you may be looking at your mobile device and you see snow. and it looks like it's been snowing all morning. We just haven't had the chance to have this actually hit the surface. And a lot of this is just going to really vary as to when we can get our conditions to really kind of favor this possibility for seeing some snow. But once this snow does start to develop, it is going to be a rather busy day. And timing wise, folks, we really did not expect much of this up until about mid-morning. So basically now, the concern for today is going to be accumulating snow. Snow will start to make its way into the area from southwest to northeast. Roads will become slick and snow covered, and travel is not going to be recommended. Again, just a reminder, we do have the chance for seeing multiple inches of snow across the area. This is more of a marathon, not a sprint. Tavian and myself will have another update coming up in just a little bit. And if you want to stay with us, we'll have another update hopefully here within the next 15 to 20 minutes. back into the upper 30s with more sunshine in place. The concern doesn't necessarily come from what we're going to be seeing when we talk about actual precipitation falling, but the possibility for seeing melting and then refreezing across the area. This is again something that we're going to continue to watch as we head throughout the rest of the day today and as we go throughout the rest of the week. But boy, this has been such a large system that we've been watching all across the country. And it's potentially causing some concerns, again, if you have any travel plans, whether you be traveling by vehicle or by plane. Here across East Tennessee, the snow is finally starting to come on in. We also have meteorologist Tavian Whitehurst, who's been with me this morning. Tavian, we're just now, after hours of covering this, starting to see some of this snow.
Yes, we are finally getting the opportunity to really see what we're looking at across the area. But I also wanted to kind of add on top of all of the coverage that Rebecca has been sharing with you guys. She was talking about some of the drier air that we have in place. I have some of the dew points up behind me if that comes up at any point in just a little bit, just to kind of show you what we mean about some of that drier air. We've had some of those dew points down into the teens, single digits at some points, and now we're finally starting to see some more moist air really start to roll its way on in. So what we're seeing right now, of course, are some pretty calm conditions, also very dry conditions. There you go. You're taking a look at your dew points at the moment. It is nearly bone dry. Again, dew points in the teens and 20s is very low, but what you're going to notice is all of the areas that are already seeing some of that snowfall are the areas with those higher dew points that start to pull into the 20s. So it's been a very slow saturation period that we've been watching essentially from the top down. And when I say the top down, I mean the higher elevations of the atmosphere then working their way down toward the surface. We kind of keep moving its way on through, and we're going to see again some of the roads that we're looking at throughout the area. Well, hopefully we can get up some of those roads. It looks like things have been, nice for the most part, but finally in East Tennessee, we're actually starting to see some activity. If you happen to go on some SmartWay cameras, you go on I-75 North, and especially as you break your way up towards the split, that's now where we're finally starting to see some changes and also some improvements as we look over much of this time period. It's something yet they may see on the stream. I'm switching over to what we're seeing at 140. If you have an opportunity to take a look at some TDOT cameras simultaneously, that's a good way to really know what we're looking at across the area, because then you can sort of track how we're seeing that snowfall up from the south. There we go. Yes, beautiful look there along 75 North. You can see the snow now accumulating very much so in the grass. And then we are going to see, again, that activity that starts to roll its way on through. So, again, you're looking at 75 at Hickory Creek, and then we're starting to see 75 right there by 81.4. Both of these getting kind of toward the split, and that's where we're really starting to see some of those nice conditions. Again, here's that TDOT camera that I was showing you earlier. It looks like traffic is moving relatively smoothly, even though we do have some of that flurry activity coming down. Not gonna lie, I see some people speeding along, and I don't want to be a hypocrite because, I like to, put some pedals to the metal myself. But when we have some icy and slick conditions like are on setting, you got to be especially careful. So things are looking pretty good around 140. Just play it safe, y'all. Now, I wanted to briefly just kind of talk about what we're seeing around the country. Now, this is saying that there are no airport delays, but if you're generally on this eastern side of the country and you are seeing any of this snowfall, basically from Chicago down to Memphis, you're likely seeing some delays. So that'll be something to keep in mind. We've seen a couple of people, even one of our coworkers, trying to make their way back home to the St. Louis area. Hopefully she has made it by now, because the snow has overtaken much of, well, both states, quite frankly. The entire southeastern half of Missouri, the northern half of Arkansas, all of the state of Tennessee, a good 80% of Kentucky, and now it's continuing to take over parts of Illinois, Indiana, moving off towards Ohio as well. And you can sort of see some of that ice fall that we were discussing that's trying to pull its way up with that warm nose. The low pressure center going to be hanging right around that Louisiana, Mississippi area. I don't know if you can sort of see, if you look just to the south of Memphis, there's kind of that curve that happens right there. That's the rotation of that low pressure center. So warmer air filtering in from the south. That's why you see rainfall coming from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up into the deep south, Mississippi, Alabama, and heading into the panhandle. That ice, that rain snow kind of mixed line, basically reaching from Memphis through northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, and generally into the Atlanta region as well. That's where we're starting to see kind of that mix. Again, we talked about that warm nose that may continue to have impacts upon us here in East Tennessee, that for people along the Southern Valley, we are thinking that is going to have a little bit of an impact upon them. But zoom it way on in down to here in East Tennessee, and thankfully we're still seeing a lot of clarity across the drive times map. Now you may be noticing that there's a couple of spots of yellow that are starting to interject, sort of join the picture. It's very, very scattered, but I think that essentially means that we're watching some pockets of activity begin to pick up. I showed you some of those looks earlier. We'll move things over into the radar, and you're going to see why things are starting to get messy. Much better snowfall as you look down toward the south. Doesn't look like that mixed line has quite made it up toward the Chattanooga area. You can see in that northeastern corner of Alabama, Long Island, Scottsboro, and then even northern Georgia, Lafayette, Boynton, Dalton, Crandall, Mineral Buff, and even Ivy Log too, starting to see some of those snowy conditions fully creeping upon them. Those stronger snow bands whipping in the blue, pushing towards the Chattanooga area. As you can see, and we get closer to the Knoxville area, it's still very much on the lighter end. The snowfall is on the lighter end, the accumulations are on the lighter end, but they're now finally starting to build as we work into Knox County. Finally. Now, again, since we have been doing coverage for so long, I can understand that it feels like maybe we're behind schedule, but that is really not the case. You know, even with our coverage, we just wanted to keep you aware of everything that was going on, but we are continuing to actually hang right along the proper timeline that we've been talking about this entire way through. So basically the mid-late morning, we were really assuming around 10 o'clock that we were going to start to see some activity. Models and even our composite radar wanted to pull that sooner, but that brings us right back to the beginning of this conversation where we were talking about some of that drier air that is hanging down around the surface that is slowly moistening, slowly becoming a bit more saturated so that the snow that we see coming down can actually make it to the ground. It was the same thing that we saw last week. Since it's wintertime, very dry air in place, so sometimes it takes a while for the rest of the atmosphere to properly saturate itself so that we can see that snowfall reaching from the heights of the atmosphere, I mean as far as 3 miles up into the sky, and finally falling their way on down. It takes a while for snowflakes to get their move on. They're pretty light. But what we're seeing here is a couple of pictures sent in by y'all, and thank you so much for doing so. This is a picture from John J. 8 out of 10 Mile. First of all, go Vols, right? But we're seeing, of course, that car right there starting to get that nice little snow covering. Looks like some light accumulations that we're seeing on those grassy areas, and those are always going to be the first ones to pick up those accumulations. So you got to make sure you're being careful if you're going toward the side of the road, and even if you're just by the road. Again, grassy areas, the parks, and other walkways are going to be some of the first places because the ground is colder there. Remember, ground temperature is always going to be a couple degrees colder than what we actually feel in the air. And that's exactly where that frost is going to form as well. We've had very cold ground, so you got to make sure you're being especially careful. This is from a couple of hours ago. This is out of Coker Creek. Thank you to Jamie for sending this in. The first couple of flakes that were starting to fall around East Tennessee, which is definitely an exciting thing here. And again, just a reminder that I was sort of throwing together because we've been starting to talk about some of that warm nose energy starting to really roll its way in, because when you have that full cold air from top to bottom, what we're going to see is just snow all the way down as we kind of move our way on through. The sleet and the freezing rain start to roll in once we see warmer pockets of air trying to roll the way in like they do from the south. We're hoping not to get too much of that. We would love to keep this just a snow event, but depending on how deep that warm air sneaks in, that could have some impact on our snow totals. But Rebecca, going to send things back onto you to kind of give them a few more details on that.
Well, thank you so much, Davey. We're going to be wrapping this up here in just. But we're going to be doing another update in about 15 minutes. We want you to join us, folks, again, as we get closer to the noon hour. We're going to have full live coverage all across East Tennessee, talking about where this snow is moving through. And Tavian and I look forward to seeing all of your pictures and videos that you guys can share with us on our app, as well as online and on social media. We'll see you in just a little bit. Was tough. It was like dangling a piece of meat in front of a dog and you just wanted to get it, but it just wasn't quite here yet. So now that we are seeing this snow, boy, it's turned into a winter wonderland across the region. And hopefully, folks, you're getting a chance to enjoy it. So here's a quick glimpse as to where we're at with the radar. Remember, with the radar beams, the radar goes up, and so it shows some of the precipitation that we have in the higher levels of the atmosphere. And in this case, it's all in the form of snow. But this snow is actually falling and it's hitting the surface and it's creating some beautiful views, which meteorologist Tavian Whitehurst is going to be talking about in just a little bit. He has so much more when it comes to what we're seeing traffic wise, because I know that's a big question across the area, but also he's going to show you some of our viewer pictures that we've had from across the region as well, because it's absolutely beautiful. Now we are going to continue to see a winter storm warning that's in effect until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. This is where we are expecting conditions on the roadways to not be totally ideal. Wind advisory in place across the higher elevations. This will be from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. This is where we could see some gustier winds moving in from the south, and it could provide the possibility for a little bit of some warmer weather into the far southern valley. And this warmer weather could potentially provide the chance for a little bit of a wintry mix. That's where to be honest, that's where I've had a few little concerning moments just looking at some of our futurecast models going, oh, I want it to be all snow. Chances are we'll have a good chance to see some really good snow ahead of this, but models are also showing that there is the potential later on tonight that we could see a little bit of a wintry mix and perhaps maybe a little bit of some freezing rain. And this will be on top of some snow. Again, we're going to continue to see this snow kind of taper off as we go into the early hours of your Saturday. This is primarily an all-day Friday event, but it is something that we're going to continue to watch as we go into the weekend because of impacts on the roads. Looking ahead to your Saturday, again, most of this precipitation is going to be over with tomorrow, and then we continue to talk about the impacts on the roads. So the impacts including bridges and overpasses, and looking at the opportunity for a lot of this snow to really not go anywhere anytime soon. Big picture point of view one more time. We're watching this system that's stretching all the way from Chicago down to Memphis, and you'll hear Tavian talk about this when it comes to travel, but it's a huge system that's sliding across the southeast, and it's one of those systems, folks, where if you do not need to be on the roads, I would highly advise just kind of hunkering down. We said it all morning. We said once this snow starts to develop, it's going to be fun, and accumulation is going to happen rather quickly. And we've definitely had some beautiful viewpoints of this across the region. Again, winter storm warning is in place across all of Tennessee. We'll watch this area of precipitation slide across the southeast. For most, it's going to be bringing in snow. For some, as we talked about before, there is the possibility that we could have a little bit of a wintry mix into the far southern valley. And this is something that we're going to be watching when it comes to our temperature profile later on in the day. Could create a few concerns, but by that point, folks, I mean, really, hopefully you're not on the roads, as we are just going to be seeing this winter wonderland taking over. A cloud cover will stick around for the rest of your Saturday. Saturday, when it comes to falling precipitation, not going to be an issue. Saturday is going to be a dry day, except for the higher elevations, but we're still going to have the impacts and the concerns on the roads following all of this snow that's going to be making its way into the region. Here's a glimpse of your 7-day forecast. We go from temperatures into the 30s both today and tomorrow, overnight lows dropping down into the 20s. So it's not necessarily going to get overly cold, but impacts will still be in place when it comes to the amount of snow on the roads, untreated roads, back roads, secondary roads. And again, as we kind of recap and talk about the timing of this system, we did show that most of this was going to be moving into the area as early as mid-morning. So we're kind of right in the time frame of when we expected things to pick up across the Central Valley. And if you live across northeast Tennessee, moving into parts of Greene County, Hawkins County, Hamlin County, this is something that's going to be impacting you as we get into the start of the afternoon. So definitely seeing some concerns across the area if you are going to be outside. and this does include the possibility for snow kind of staying with us throughout most of the day. Speaking of snow, let's go into some of the potential snowfall totals. And from this point on, folks, I think any kind of snow is going to be something we're looking forward to. I do expect to see more confidence of accumulating snow into the Central Valley, and this is going to happen relatively quickly. And I'm kind of being a little bit easy with my numbers. I do expect anywhere between, let's say, 3 to 5 inches plus into parts of the Central Valley, and this could vary even by location in a certain county. A lot of this is going to depend on where we see this warm nose of air moving into the area later on this afternoon and into the evening. There is, however, because of those warmer winds that could be drawing in some slightly warmer temperatures into parts of the foothills, we could have the chance for seeing that little bit of a wintry mix, which would take away from snowfall totals, but still expecting to see anywhere between 2 to 3 inches of snow. Across the higher elevations into parts of the plateau, some models indicate that some areas could even get close to near 6 inches of snow. So definitely expect accumulating snow, perfect for making snowballs, perfect for maybe making a snow angel, snow cream. You enjoy it, folks, and make the most of it. Now, we are also tracking, again, some bigger concerns when it comes to what we're seeing across the area. We have meteorologist Tavian Whitehurst, who is with us this afternoon, or as well this morning, I should say. Tavian, you and I have been tracking what's been going on across the area all morning, and it's definitely really starting to pick up across the region.
I've been able to get a couple of pictures here if you're able to see the screen that I have prepared for you. It's a couple of pictures of TDOT trucks that are on the move. I saw this tweet from Mark Nagy about maybe 10 minutes ago at this point, where he's saying the snow is falling and the salt trucks are moving. Now, in some of those, you can't necessarily see that that we're seeing the snowfall impacts per se, but it's something that we're continuing to keep in mind as we move over some of these next couple of hours, and we see the snowfall and its accumulation continue to build. And so what we're going to see with this as we work through much of this time period is the growing impacts. I got to look at your TDOT cameras over here where you're able to see again some of the movement that is now rolling on through. Both of these cameras on I-75 South that are generally hanging around much of the I-75 corridor, reaching down to the Southern Valley, and we're seeing that slowly start to creep its way back on up. You see a couple of trucks moving on by, but things are moving relatively smoothly. Thankfully, I haven't seen any crashes come up at this point as we've gotten over much of this time period. Now, what we do now from this point is just continue to play it safe. Now, you might be seeing either some TDOT cameras or just a picture of some snow that we're looking at in the Loudon area. And so with either of those, you're able to just watch some of the light accumulations. It's sticking to surfaces. It's especially sticking to grassy areas. And what you're also able to see is that people are moving quite consistent. Either you're seeing people hanging out at home or you're seeing people on the road. So you just have to be especially careful no matter what you're doing. We're going to try to give you a look at over the Max 2 cameras. And so with some of the drive times that you're able to watch through much of the area, well, you're taking a look still at that picture lot. And we're going to move on to some snow that we're seeing out in Madisonville. Now, this is a picture here from Macon Millsaps. Thank you so much for sending this in. They got the nice little car all covered in that snow. You see, you got the sedan behind it, Honda to the right, and even that big old red truck. It's kind of nice looking, and something about red and snow just really go hand in hand. It's a pretty gorgeous picture and a pretty gorgeous view that we're looking at all around town. So we're going to continue to see some nice conditions. Now we'll take you over to the TDOT cameras where you're able to see 75 at 2 points, both of them generally leading up toward that split. So you see at 75 Creek leading in that direction, and then you start to move closer and closer to the Knoxville area, and we're starting to see the growing impacts. You primarily see your snowfall on the edges of the road, and especially on those grassy areas where it is going to be just a little bit colder. I'll move you over to one more camera that's a bit closer to town. This is 140 southbound, and I'm trying to wait for some of the flakes to pass on through. There you go. If you look towards that right bottom part of the screen, you're able to see ever so slightly how the flurries are moving on through, but thankfully, traffic is moving quite smoothly as well. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you earlier was some of the airport delays. I'm wondering how quickly this updates, because I definitely know that if you're trying to fly out of Memphis, Nashville, Atlanta, Knoxville, even get into the New Orleans area, even though it's just rainfall, you got to be especially careful. This is a large system. It could easily lead to some backups and some slowdowns, because this is what we're dealing with, literally covering almost the entire eastern, kind of mid-south and deep south, reaching from Michigan through much of the Midwest, through the entire state of Tennessee, and just south of Tennessee is when we start to see a bit of that rain snow line. So when we see that line reaching from Memphis area, northern Mississippi, Alabama, kind of central Georgia around the Atlanta metro area, And then as you work to those areas further down to the south, that's where you see a lot of that rainfall. So everybody is likely to see some of those slowdowns, but zooming on into the Knoxville metro area, and we're definitely starting to see the same, especially as you look around kind of that Loudon area down to the south. You look just around that I-40 symbol, and otherwise that's where we start to see a little bit of the slowdown. Some of that yellow as you work your way down the I-75 corridor, very messy as we look into kind of McMinn County, Athens, Etowah, and kind of heading towards Cleveland and Chattanooga as well. You can imagine the slowdowns. Even as we move a little bit outside of our area, just general southeast Tennessee, moving towards Dunlap and up 127 up to Crossville. Yeah, Crossville, I can imagine having some slowdowns because they've been going for quite a while. But we just keep moving things on through. We're still looking at heavier snowfall in parts of the Chattanooga area. You can start to see towards the bottom of that screen some of that ice fall that is trying to creep its way up as we look into some of these regions. So you look right around here, just south of Lafayette, and that's where we're starting to see some of that purple. Remember, that's going to be that sleet. But back here in East Tennessee, still just looking at the snowfall. We may continue to watch that warm nose try to creep its way on in and maybe try to turn some of that into a mix. But in the meantime, we're just kind of enjoying life, enjoying the snow. Please continue to do so. Send us more pictures. Thank you to John J. 8 out of 10 Mile for sending us a nice little snow cover picture of his car. I'm sure it started to build a little bit more than that at this point. We got a little video here of Coker Creek. Thank you to Jamie for sending this in. These were the first couple of flakes that we saw when we were just begging you guys to send us what you were seeing. And now it's finally happening. Snow finally upon us like we deserve. But just one final reminder about some of the different precipitation types that we could see, because we started out just talking about a lot of snow, right? That just meant we had cold air from top to bottom, but now we're starting to see in our models that that warmer air is trying to creep its way in as we look into higher parts of the atmosphere. So at first, the only thing that was stopping us was some of the snow. Well, first was some of that drier air, and then what we're starting to see is the warmer air. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on this. I'll give you one last look there across the radar so you can see how the snowfall is starting to take all of us over. Rebecca and myself will be back with more updates so that you can continue to know what's going on. See you soon.
We're coming to you on your streaming platform right now, where you are taking a look at the radar, and you can see, boy, this snow has made its way into East Tennessee, folks. And for those of you who have been asking and at some points impatiently waiting for the snow to start, it is here, and hopefully you are loving every single second of it. This is exactly what we were watching when it came to the time frame of this snow. Most of it was forecast to make its way into the region anywhere between noon, or I should say 10 to noon, and then carry on up into northeast Tennessee. So radar is picking up on this as well. Really earlier today, folks, if you were watching this and you saw snow over your area and you were like, where is the snow? Why is it not hitting the ground? Well, we had some very light snow, and with dry air near the surface, it just wasn't necessarily fully hitting. And now that we've started to see the atmosphere just saturate a little bit more, things are becoming much more dynamic. And it's starting to take shape, folks. And boy, I do expect it to be a fun afternoon. We do have, again, a winter storm warning that will be in effect until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Wind advisory, which is something that came out new early this morning, which will be in effect from 1 p.m. today until 9 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to start to see those winds pick up. Now, these winds that are going to be picking up are going to be moving in from the south. So there are some concerns, again, when it comes to the possibility of perhaps seeing a little bit of a wintry mix. Hopefully our temperature profile can stay cold enough. I think that this model in particular is a little excited about this wintry mix. I'm not taking it out of the chances completely, but I think that it's kind of, like, oh, let's get it going. So hopefully, folks, it will all stay snow. And this is something that we're going to continue to monitor again as we go throughout the rest of the day. If you have any travel plans, folks, this system has been stretching all the way from Chicago down to Memphis, and we even have reports of seeing over 2 inches of snow into parts of Atlanta. One more time, we give you a glimpse with your 7-day forecast across the region. Snow is making its way into the area, folks, and we appreciate every single snow photo that you have shared with us. This is from Abby Webb. You can see her pup just having the best time in the snow. Another great photo which was shared to us from Madisonville. You can see the snow again on some of those vehicles that are in place. And then another great photo of some of the snow that we are seeing in Loudon. So we appreciate everyone giving us your input, and I do want to remind you that we are going to be starting our noon show over on WBIR. You can also watch this again on all platforms, our streaming platform, which is what you are on right now, as well as our app. This is a great resource again when it comes to some of the snow that's moving through the area, to get a glimpse as to what we are seeing. TDOT cameras really starting to fill up with some of the snow that we have across the region. We're going to have the very latest on your traffic over on the noon show as to where we could be seeing some of those slowdowns as well. If you don't need to be on the roads today or tomorrow, just take it nice and easy. Again, we will see you guys shortly over on the noon show.